So we are so excited to be here. We are here to talk about our latest obscure animation. This is a series we do every single month where we talk about a lesser known or underrated animated film, and we try to give it its day in the sun. And I'm Rachel, and Stanford is here.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for inviting me. Nice to be with you again.
Yeah, thank you. I really, really appreciate it. So today we are talking about a film called Summer Wars. It's summer, so it just seemed appropriate.
Absolutely.
And this is, of course, an anime film. And it is by director Mamoru Hosoda. And it was released in 2009. So it's a pretty fairly recent film. And so had you seen this previous to our to this podcast?
No, this was my first viewing of it, Rachel.
Oh, cool.
So I was really happy, that you introduced me to yet another cool movie.
Yeah, I had seen this a couple of times before. I've only seen two of Hosoda's films. I saw The Boy and the Beast, and I've seen this, and I know I need to see The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, some of those other ones. I know they're so good, but I really loved this film, and so I thought it's not perfect, but I was very entertained, and I thought it was super creative, and so I thought this is just going to be a really fun one that I think a lot of people, even if you're not super into anime, I think you might like this. It's just very creative. So what did you think overall? What did you think about it?
Well, no, I'm with you. Incredibly creative.
Yeah.
I thought it was, beautiful to look at, had a very compelling storyline, and I really enjoyed it. I'm really excited to talk about it more with you and getting in more detail about it, but I really enjoyed it.
I'm really, really glad. Yeah, I think maybe watching this time I was a little bit more, since I'm like watching it for a podcast, I was like, oh, that is kind of messy, or
right,
but overall I still was very entertained by it. And I think what it does so remarkably is that it combines genres so well.
Yes.
This movie manages to be a family reunion movie. It manages to be a romance. It manages to be a video game movie.
It's a cyber thriller.
Yeah, absolutely. Cyber thriller, anime film, all of that stuff all in one. And sometimes it's a little messy combining all these things together.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it does a pretty good job at it, I think.
I agree. I was quite impressed how it was a bit of a genre bender.
Mm-hmm. That's a good way to describe it.
But overall it works. It works well.
Yeah. So Mamoru Hosoda has made 7 films, including one that is coming up this summer.
Yes.
Mirai of the Future, which is pretty exciting. So keep your eye out for that. I know it's released in Japan in June. I'm not sure when it's coming to the States.
When we'll get it in the States.
Yeah.
Some kind of Fathom events or something, right? Or
right.
G-Kids, hopefully it's going to do something with it, or Funimation.
Had you ever seen any of his films before?
No. I looked at his filmography, and no, this was the first film of his I've seen. And I agree with you. I thought the same thing, that some of those I definitely need to add to my list, particularly because I was so impressed with the storytelling of this one and the artistry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
me too. So the story starts out with this world called Oz. That's this interactive virtual reality kind of world that people can, similar to the Oasis, Ready Player One.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's very reminiscent of the Oasis, and really, functionality-wise, it's a lot like Facebook. In a lot of ways, even though you're not necessarily having an avatar and different things like you do in Oz and the Oasis and whatnot. But
it's like Facebook taking it to the next step, where the Oz, it runs utilities, it even has like nuclear codes, like it has everything.
It has everything, and everybody uses it to run their life, basically. That's how they do their banking and everything is tied into Oz.
So we start out with a character named Kenji, and he is basically, his job is, he's a teenager, and his job is he works kind of getting bugs and stuff out of Oz. Like he works on Oz, and he's kind of shy, but he's a little bit of a pushover, but not too. I wouldn't describe him as super geeky. I don't know. What do you think about Kenji?
Well, no, I think you're right on. He's like a computer programmer, and in a way maybe fits a bit of a stereotype of that that type of a role. Maybe a bit of an introvert, super smart, and really able to solve problems, and has some aspirations, I think, to be better socially and whatnot, but still is shy and maybe a bit insecure. Is that fair to say about his character?
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a fair way to describe it. Crush on this girl named Natsuki.
Yeah, it's Natsuki, right? I blow it on these names. I'm sorry about that to your anime listeners. I'm trying to do better.
Right. And so she invites him to go and be her date, basically, for a 90th birthday party of her great-grandmother.
Her great-grandma, yeah.
What did you think of her as a character? Did you buy that he would go with her?
I kind of felt in a way that her character was one of the things I didn't really love about the movie. I was kind of confused. I got confused about her, and we'll come to some of different points as we go on. Well, but because he's got a crush on her, and he was there with his friend, and she basically just said, I need you to come with me, and you got to trust me. And I feel like it was, I could see how he could do it. Like, it would be something that, even though there was a big unknown, a big question mark about what was involved, that he's just like, okay, what the heck, I'm going to do it. He's psyched himself up to do it.
I mean, I think what maybe doesn't work 100% is the idea that a high school girl would need a date for her grandma's, great-grandma's birthday party. That feels a little weird.
Yes.
Especially once they have a fake engagement. As much as I love fake engagements in Hallmark movies, it feels a little bit like these are teenagers.
I wanted to ask you about it. How does that compare to one of these Hallmark movies? It seems like that's kind of a recurring story element, isn't it? To have a fake engagement in a Hallmark movie.
Oh, I love fake engagements, but just high school students, it's a little weird. Yeah. See,
I was surprised by that, and I wondered if part of that was a cultural thing. I just thought, aren't they awfully young to be?
I think it is
doing this, and for great grandma to require it. But anyway,
luckily they really don't spend very much time on the romance.
True, for better or for worse, it's really kind of becomes. I mean, it's a very present plot point, but it's not. Yeah, they don't just kill it or drive
it's probably it's probably the smallest of the. If you have the reunion movie, the romance, the hacker movie, the video game movie, thriller, it's probably the least time, I would say, out of all of those. To spend on it, so I think that's okay. But anyway, so Kenji goes with Natsuki to her grandma Sake, and
they take the train, right?
Yes, they take the train.
Yeah,
that's true. And you get a lot of exposition sort of in this setup, telling you about Oz and what it is and what it does, and I think that works pretty well.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. So then you have this family reunion, and there are a lot of characters. When he was first making the movie, Mamoru Hosoda said he wanted to have 80 characters. And there are a lot of characters in this movie. I counted, at least off of the Wikipedia, 28.
Yeah, 28
characters, which is a lot.
There's a lot. This is a big family. And they're there to honor their grandma. I love the setting of the house that they go to, where the great grandma lives, because that part kind of reminded me of some Studio Ghibli type of films, like Only Yesterday or something, and that it just this beautiful Japanese. It's all, I don't know what you call it. It's kind of a mansion,
Yeah.
but out in the country, it was gorgeous. I mean, I loved it. I just felt very transported to
Yeah.
this other place.
Yeah, they have really like the old, like the house. The house it feels sort of old fashioned, which is a nice contrast to everything from the from Oz, which is so
from Oz, which
new
is so,
and busy and crazy, and then you have this sort of traditional world in the house. So it's very interesting. And I don't know. Do you come from a big family?
Not really. I mean, there are 5 kids in my family, so I mean, I guess to put on the standards today's standards, it could be considered kind of big, but we also don't have just a huge like a huge extended family, as far as like tons and tons of nieces and nephews and grandkids and all this sort of stuff. It's just it's kind of limited. So
you don't have,
but I have friends that have just these gigantic families,
Yeah.
And so I was picturing kind of their type of family reunion thing when I was seeing what was presented to us in the film.
So you don't have these like kind of big chaotic family reunions kind of thing that often?
Not really. I mean, we've had some, but it's just our family is just not that big. So yeah.
I can really relate to it because I have quite a few cousins, and we would get together quite frequently, and we had a family reunion I think every 2 years for a long time, and it was always completely crazy. My grandfather would leave in a huff and be upset, and some people would end up fighting, then everybody else would have a great time. And so I definitely totally related to this. There was one time where things practically came to blows. It was pretty intense, and then you have like tons of fun too. And we're all in my family on the Wagner side, we're all very strong personalities. We're all kind of big and loud, and it's kind of like, I feel like that's why I like My Big Fat Greek Wedding so much, is because I can really relate to it.
You can relate.
Yeah.
And so you can really relate to this film because that's what was going on with this family, right? There was just, a lot of wonderful personalities and lots going on, lots going on with this family.
Yeah, I agreed. It definitely captured that sense of like, especially when they have the uncle who has been Wabsuke, that has been estranged from the family.
He's kind of the black sheep of the family.
Yeah, and everybody's just kind of trying to make the grandma happy, which I can definitely relate to as well, because we've had some things like that, and everyone in my family loves my grandma. Like, she is just beloved. And when she got sick, it was interesting because she's still alive, but she went through some tough times a couple of years ago. And what was interesting is I called my sister, who was there in California at the time, and I said, I've got to make sure I get over there because me and grandma have a really special bond. I said something like that. And she's like, you have no idea. All the cousins, like all of them have basically called and said something like that. Yeah, it's true. I think we all feel like we're the most special. And I think that's because she has that gift of just making you feel loved and making you feel valued. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
And so I definitely related to Natsuki and Sake's relationship, because that was the way as my grandma's, that she sometimes could be tough. She sometimes could be strict, but always just loving. And she made you feel like she makes you feel like you're the most important person in the room. Yeah. And when I was very unhappy in my job, I was working for a division of the family company, and I never told my grandma that I was struggling so much, and maybe my mom told her, I don't know. But she called me every Wednesday during lunch just to see how I was doing, and it became like this thing. And which I don't know, she just knew somehow, and I always just love that about her, and I just think that this movie captures that dynamic pretty well.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear. No, thanks for sharing that, because that's one of the things I really liked about the family dynamic, is that even though maybe there was some squabbling or they had some differences, everybody respected great grandma.
Yeah.
And that was really nice to see, and an element of the film I thought that rang true, but that also was just really pleasing, just to see people respect someone in their family so much like that, respect and love them.
Yeah, and I think in this way, this movie is better than Ready Player One. The book Ready Player One is better than the movie as far as developing relationships, but it has more relationships outside of Oz than Wade ever has outside of the Oasis. So I appreciate that as just a contrast. But anyway, so Kenji and Natsuki end up telling their family that they are engaged, and and one of the uncles thinks that, oh well, she must be pregnant, and she's like, no, but she's just trying to like make her grandma happy. And so anyway, there's all kinds of drama.
Yeah.
That's very family to me. And I always say that, like, visiting my family, there's going on vacation, because my parents lived in California for years, and then there's visiting my family. They're not the same.
Yeah, not the same, right?
Yeah. But so then we find out that in Oz there is a virus, I guess I want to call it, called Love Machine.
This virus gets introduced into Oz and really starts wreaking havoc.
Yeah, they describe it on Wikipedia as an artificial intelligence. And what did you think about Love Machine? Sort of the main villain kind of in the movie.
Well, yeah, he was the main villain, and I thought I liked it because, again, he was animated in a very interesting way, and his his character would morph into different things as time, as the story progresses and he gets through different areas in the program and whatnot.
Yeah. I guess we should say, what do you think about the design of Oz?
Well, it's a knockout. Oz clearly was designed heavy use of computer graphics, but it still looks 2D. I mean, it's a really cool hybrid of I think 2D and 3D animation. But it's got this wonderful, colorful, very Japanese style to it. And you and I had corresponded a little bit about this, but after seeing the film, I just was racking my brain for days. I was trying to remember. I've seen artwork like this before, and I just couldn't remember. And then finally, it hit me. There's this museum in Los Angeles, a modern art museum called the Broad, and there's this Japanese pop artist named Takashi Murakami, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering his name, but he does his art, and he does a lot of the piece that they have at the Broad is huge. It's this giant wall that's maybe 20 feet tall and 30 feet wide, but done in this exact same style as Oz. So white background and all these colorful, very highly stylized pieces that instantly look Japanese. You see it and it looks Japanese, and it's so cool. So I was just wowed by the design and execution of Oz, and it just continued to be that way as Love Machine was morphing and changing it, and I thought it was really interesting. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I thought it was gorgeous, and it was like scary and cute at the same time. and things
Yes.
morph like so quickly from being like super cute to being scary. Even Love
Yeah.
Machine itself could kind of do that and get these big fangs, and like,
Yeah. Go
and
from kind of a kind of a beautiful character to something really scary. Yeah.
yeah, and it didn't have that problem that some virtual realities have, where it felt a need to sort of mimic what we know, or have like lots of product placement or whatever. It was all just its own unique thing. And I don't mind the product placement
Yeah.
that much. Like, I didn't mind all the Easter eggs in Ready Player One. That was fine for me because that's all part of the game. Ready Player One, it's supposed to be that way because that's how Halliday designed it, to put
Yeah.
pieces together. Whereas this is not designed to be a game. This is designed to be a world. I don't know, just like it's a little different.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
It's this virtual world, and I liked how everything. It wasn't even. Sometimes it reminded me of like Tron.
Oh, yeah,
Or
yeah.
someone's going in again. They're using an avatar in this case to go into the world, but yet it's more liberated than Tron because everything's floating. Everything's in the air. It's like there's not even necessarily quote unquote gravity going on in there. It's just this wonderful free form expression. I was really really wowed by the artistry of it. I think kudos to the animation team for that, and I think it's one of the strengths of the film
Definitely.
is the design of Oz.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it really sort of takes you away into something completely different, something completely, I don't know, it's just really magical. I did ask my followers on Twitter, and I got 2 responses about Summer Wars. Jonathan North said, he says, not quite on the level of a Studio Ghibli movie, but still great in its own way. Very visually different and creative. Similar plot devices to Tron, and done in a totally unique way that feels like it's completely its own thing. Totally worth checking out for animation fans. And then Jacob Dominguez says, Summer Wars is awesome. It's beautiful and one of my favorite films about the importance of power and sorry, let me read it again. Summer Wars is awesome. It's beautiful and one of my favorite films about the importance and power of family. So
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got cool followers.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about Tron is all about like personal revenge, and you do get kind of the same theme here a little bit because you have Wabsuke, who he's feeling angry. He wants to kind of get revenge. What is his big beef with, in your eyes?
Well, how I interpret it, and I'll be interested to get your take on it too. I feel like he wanted acceptance
Mm-hmm.
and didn't get it from his family, and so he did something really extreme. He left Japan, right, and then he go to the U.S. and then just started to do this programming, and he's the one who created Love Machine, right?
Yeah. What is he? Because he creates Love Machine. He's gonna sell it to the United States government, to the army, and what does he try? So he was just trying to do a test run, and it kind of went crazy.
Yeah, that's how I interpreted it. But again, I don't think that they were really clear about him. Maybe some of it was just me watching, missing some stuff too. But I really wondered about his motivations because the second you meet him, he's shifty, but also because he's been gone and his family has basically disowned him. Right? He was just coming to pay respects to great grandma.
Yeah,
but,
there's a rift. And he decides to create this for the United States Army because they're going to pay him a lot. And then he's got this plan that he had taken some of the money from, I guess, of the family fortune. And so he's going to sell this thing to the United States Army, and then he was going to, and it was going to be this great thing. And it's not really clear why the United States Army would want it, what's going on there.
Right.
But
exactly.
anyway, that's kind of the plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was, that's part, again, it could have been just my, I missed something, which I wouldn't, which probably would have happened, but still, that just seemed, his motivations and everything seemed a little unclear to me, but still, mad at the family.
Right.
And then trying to get back, I think, in their good graces, possibly. But the only person that reaches out to him, though, is the girl, right? The main girl. Everybody else won't even talk to him.
Well, they seem to have a relationship, a special relationship.
Yeah.
And first, I mean, they all blame when everything goes wrong. They blame Kenji because the Love Machine uses Kenji's avatar, and so they think it's something Kenji did when he didn't. And it's not until later on at dinner that it's not until later on at dinner that Wabasuke basically confesses that he's the one. He's kind of bragging. It's not really confessing. He's kind of bragging about it.
He's bragging about it.
This.
Yeah.
And he thinks they're going to like it because, we're going to get all this money and it's going to be this great. And everybody is horrified, including Grandma.
Oh, Grandma. Yeah. Grandma's not having any of it.
She gets out this long
this weapon.
Sickle. It's like a Grim Reaper would have.
Yeah.
And it kind of rushes him out of town. And you see the Love Machine just keeps growing and growing and growing. And Natsuki has a cousin named Kazuma, who's younger than her, really, really great at computers. And she was, actually, I'm not even sure. Kazuma, is that a boy or a girl?
I was going to ask you that. I think she's a girl.
Okay, girl.
But almost like a tomboy type, and also and teenage, like 13-ish, right? Kind of 12 or 13, maybe, or even a little younger. What did you think about her age?
I think probably like 12 would be my guess.
Yeah.
And you see her go through a lot. She's a pretty developed character. She's really good with computers. She starts to fight Love Machine, but then Love Machine defeats her avatar, King Cosma, and just continues to just consume all of Oz, millions of accounts and everything like that. And it causes all of these problems. There's not only because all of these electrical devices are all hooked up through
the whole country's like transportation grid is. Yeah, all of Japan's transportation grid can be controlled through Oz. Go figure. So he's like caused gridlock nationwide, right? And problems with the trains, and everybody's stuck. And like some of the family members now, they can't get to Grandma's house because they're stuck in traffic, right?
Right. Yeah, well, they try to arrest Kenji at a certain point, and because of all the traffic, they bring him back. And because there's these two uncles named Rika and Shota, and they both hate Wabasuke, especially Shota, and so they first are blaming Kenji, and it stops all of medical devices and other things, not only just thing, and. Then you have Sake. She makes some calls, trying to get people who work in emergency services, trying to get everything. Trying to get through this and trying to motivate the family. And then Kenji goes and is able to kind of get through and become a moderator. And that's when you get the reveal from Wabsuke that he had sold Love Machine to the Army, the United States Army, for this test run. And they get in this big fight, and they have and you'd have this cute moment between Sake and Kenji and Natsuki, where Saki basically says, like, take care of my girl, kind of a thing, and you have this cute moment amongst all this chaos, which is nice.
Yeah.
And that's kind of
the
last.
That's one of the things. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, so that's one of the. Sorry to interrupt, Rach. That's one of the things I think that's so fun about this movie is that it's paced so well. Where you have the really stressful parts, in Oz as Love Machine is taking over and looking scarier and scarier, and more bad things are happening in Japan. To the transportation and power grid and everything. And then you come back to a family scene, and again, you're in this beautiful setting, and it humanizes it because, again, they're talking about these family issues that, even though get a little bit exaggerated, they're real, right? I mean, I think there's things that we could all relate to as this family's trying to work out some of these issues and deal with these problems that they're having.
Yeah, it gives you time to breathe.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. It's really well done that way. I think it does manage tone. The only time I think that it doesn't manage tone is some of the humor. I think it doesn't really work for me. Between particularly Shotu and the uncle. It's a very Japanese kind of type of humor, which is big and loud and kind of shouting that you've seen a lot of anime. But it didn't really.
Yeah, it happens in anime, and then how their faces get modified, the drawing of their faces, too, which is, it's just an anime convention, right? But
you can see it in My Neighbor the Yamadas, or I don't know, just other sort of broad comedic, even some scenes in Only Yesterday, things like that. I guess I haven't seen that many comedic anime movies, but just that very what?
Yeah, exactly.
And you see quite a bit of that between Shota and Rika, I think, are most over the top.
Yeah, I'm with you. The humor just didn't work that well for me either, and I just wonder if some of it's a cultural thing.
Yeah, probably. So then you have Suke leaving because his big reveal didn't have the effect that he wanted.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to like this and we're going to be excited that he's going to be able to make all this money. And they obviously thought it was horrible because he's putting all these lives at risk. And then the next morning we find out that Sake is dead, that she's passed away. And Mansaku, who is the one who says that the reason why she passed away was because she had this enigma and her heart enigma, and that the Love Machine had deactivated her heart monitor. So they're really mad at Wabsuke now because he basically killed
grandma. Killed grandma.
Yeah. So it's pretty. Then the next part of the movie, you have all of a sudden they go into sort of funeral mode, and so you have the stuff going on at the house, the stuff in Oz, and all happening at the same time. It gets pretty chaotic, but I don't know, it's pretty fun.
No, I liked it, and I thought that funeral stuff was handled really beautifully, with respect, and again, it's rain, it rains, and so there's moody and the slow camera movement through the house. There's that one shot where everybody's kind of sitting on the exterior of the house or sitting kind of on the step, and that's just slow pan that goes across, and you just see everybody kind of mourning in their own way. I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, you do. You see some getting very upset. Some are more quiet, different things. There's the one who's just watching baseball the whole time. But
she's watching baseball,
which feels totally real to me. There's always one person in any family gathering who's just I'm just gonna
watching sports. Yeah.
So what do you think about this plan that they developed, that they are going to bring in this supercomputer that is going to be able to help defeat Love Machine? They have all these ice blocks that are trying to keep it cool, but then Shota because it's super, super hot day. And Shota moves the ice blocks in with sake in order to keep her body cool. And that ends up causing all kinds of problems with the supercomputer. What do you think about that whole plan?
Well, I think for me, this is where stuff goes a little south. And again, it's not a huge criticism, Rach. It's just where it's not really, because they're able to instantly get this supercomputer, get the house with the proper amount of electricity, and all this stuff to power it.
Well, they get that boat in,
and then they get the boat in.
Yeah. It is pretty fast.
All this crazy stuff, and again, I mean, I know it's a fantasy movie, and I'm not a fan of, not necessarily fantasy genre, but I mean, I'm not saying that this movie's tied in complete with realism, but with most of the stuff, though, you can kind of follow it, and you kind of buy it. But this was a tad outrageous, but big deal. It was a way to combat it, because something had to be done.
It's definitely a little convoluted, for sure. I agree with you.
Yeah, and they were doing it for Granny, though.
Yeah, and it's flipping around so much, and some might find that just chaotic, too hectic. But I kind of like it because, one of the things I really love about the movie Gravity is that there's lots of things that happen in the movie Gravity that are completely absurd. But like the movie is so fast paced, it goes boom, 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 boom. So you don't have like a second to be like,
wait a minute, how did that happen?
At least for me, I'm just absorbed with what's going on. So I'm not like, how did she survive flying off into space? Like whatever. And I feel like it's a little bit this way too. Like there's a lot of convoluted stuff. There's a lot of like stuff that's a stretch, but because you're just quickly going on to the next scene and there's so many plot threads that I think it kind of helps it work.
And again, this family, they've got a fight love machine, and they know it. And so
I do like that the grandma says at one point, she says, "A family tends to its own messes, and this one is no different." So I like that. I think that's
I like that too. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a really good. It's a really good point. And again, where I think that it's the part of the family drama genre, of this film. It's solid and it works.
It kind of reminds me of, have you ever seen Dan in Real Life?
Yes. Yeah.
I love Dan in Real Life. And it's kind of that same sort of like drama family reunion kind of thing.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But all right, so then you have things start mounting up as far as tension after the whole blocks thing, and the computer's not working, and so they find the will of Sake, and they read it, and it has very loving things to say about Wabasuke. And so Natsuki reaches out to Wabasuke and gets him to come back after reading the will. And she basically says, like, you need to forgive him and you need to have him back in your lives. And so that's when you get this sort of, you find out that there is an asteroid. Things like, so the tension gets mounted because you find out that there's an asteroid that has hit a probe that is going to hit a power plant. It's going to cause, a huge, there's actually even a countdown for a while. It's like 10 hours and then it gets down to 2 hours. It's pretty intense.
It's the countdown clock, that's the whole kind of thriller aspect of it, the thriller genre portion where this probe is going to plummet down to Earth and kill the family and everything else in its wake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She has a pretty emotional moment where she's just like, there's nothing we can do. This is it. Like, and she's just crying. And I thought that really worked. Like there were some over the top reactions, but I thought that hers was the most genuine to me.
Yeah, I agree. I thought so too. It seemed the most real and appropriate for her character, because really all we've seen her be is just kind of a, gruff preteen, right?
Right.
But here she's able to really open up and be emotional and be herself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you have this new scheme that they start where they have decided to play this game called Koi Koi in the Oz. It's basically like a gambling game.
It's a card game that the grandma liked, right? The great grandma liked, and so
at first,
they're like in there.
Yeah. At first, Natsuki loses, and you think, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be really, really bad." And it's all getting very, very tense. You're getting down to like 2 hours, and the music is so great in this movie. I think.
Yes, agreed.
They got some choir in there and some electronic. It's really, and they do such a good job of just like building up tension, I think. And it does feel like,
I agree. It's a very exciting.
Like, obviously it's not going to end with the whole everybody getting destroyed, and it's not quite as good as building tension as like Your Name does, but like, I think it does a pretty good job of building that tension.
I thought so too. Yeah. And everybody's working really hard to try to solve these various problems to divert the crashing probe, right? And so, number crunching, doing all these different things as they're really trying to work together.
Yeah. So she ends up setting this wager, basically, that she keeps betting with him, and then she gets like an upgrade through these whales, I guess.
Those whales that are part of the Oz security system before Love Machine kind of took it over. Yeah.
And I didn't even realize it till reading their names were John and Yoko. It's kind of
funny. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And this
I didn't realize that either. I'm not sure if they referred to them.
Yeah. This does feel like a movie you could watch many times and get little different things like that every time you can watch it.
Yeah, agreed.
And so it ends up being this moment where they all the people in Oz gather together to basically make this one bet that's like relying on everything. And so she wages 150 million avatars in one hand, and so they end up it ends up damaging Love Machine and throwing the satellite, the probe, whatever, off. But now it's going to hit them. It's not going to hit the nuclears, which is good.
Yeah. Right. It's not going to hit the nuclear power plant, but now, it's going to hit them.
Yeah.
Hit the family home.
But then you have King Cosma that coming back and finally destroys Love Machine. And they're able to change the GPS code on the probe, and it goes into a geyser into the water. So everything's okay and everything ends. But yeah, I think they do a really good job of building up that tension, making it feel pretty real. And you've also got the whole thing with like funeral stuff, and like I said, there's this weird baseball stuff, and there's a lot going on. But I don't know, it worked for me.
Yeah, me too. It stayed compelling to the very end. Yeah.
And the animation is so great. And I listened to the dub, but I thought the dub was pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I watched too, Rach, was the dub, and I thought it was good.
Yeah. I mean,
nobody famous in that dub that I'm aware of. Was there anybody that you recognized? Yeah.
Nobody famous, but they must have just exhausted the voice talent. I think it's Funimation.
Right. With all those characters.
Right. And so, then you get the ending with basically the funeral for Sake, and it's sort of like a birthday party / funeral.
Yeah.
And you get Natsuki and Kenji kissing at the end and saying they're in love. So there you go. So yeah, it's a really interesting movie. What do you think? Do you think that it's just sort of a fun story, or do you think that Hosada is trying to say anything? Did you take any messages out of it?
Well, I thought in a way it was a message movie, as that often these cyber thrillers are, is that we're putting too much credence or value into technology, and we've got to be careful about that because it could easily, everything could go south pretty easily. So in that way, but again, I never felt like it was preachy.
No.
I just that was ultimately just a cool hybrid movie of all these different genres that got swirled together.
I think he's also.
Yeah. What about for you?
I think that's definitely true. I think he's also just trying to talk about family and the importance of not letting people kind of go astray like that, and making people feel loved, and how messy. I think just how messy families are and how hard it is to be in a family. And one movie that I love, it kind of made me think of it, is While You Were Sleeping. Sounds weird, but I love in that movie when he is talking to his dad, and the Bill Pullman character, and he's like, and the dad says, "Isn't it great when you just have that moment where everyone is happy and everyone is great?" And he's like, "Yeah, that moment's not now."
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that it's really hard to find those moments where everyone is happy, everyone is great.
It's true. It's like impossible.
Families are. I think sometimes in our religion that we have, we sometimes paint a very rosy version of family life.
Kind of this idyllic, and which is inaccurate.
No, and certainly you have those moments, but sometimes it can feel like, boy, am I the only one whose family is like a mess? And no, everybody's family's a mess. You just don't know them all.
Right.
It's really hard. It's really hard, like making everyone feel loved and included, and dealing with different choices, and it's really hard. So I think it gets that kind of right.
I think so too. I really think it gets the family stuff right. I think too, again, if I were to have a bit of a criticism, and I'm not wanting to be a big downer here, but the ending, I'm glad that we see that Natsuki and Kenji get together, because they kiss at the end, but their relationship never really got resolved in a way that really satisfied me. And
I think that's fair.
And I thought Kenji kind of got thrown to the side in the finale, whereas Natsuki was the one doing all the crazy
that's true.
computer programming, and I mean, Kenji had to do all that math work, and that he had worked so hard, he was taxing his brain so much that it was like he gave him a bloody nose. I thought that was weird, but
that's true.
But again, I don't mean to be or overly critical, but I just was wondering about that, because as you talked about kind of the Hallmark movie thing with the fake engagement, I just never felt that their relationship came to full circle. But there were so many, as I said, this family was so big. There was so much going on.
Yeah.
That's just one of those things that could possibly have been a casualty. But it kind of seemed too bad, because given that their relationship was the first one that we see in the film, I think was expecting more from that, and it didn't happen.
I agree with you. I think the romance doesn't really work for me, and also I think it would have been nice to have gotten sort of more of a final moment at that funeral / birthday with the uncle, all the uncles that have been at each other's.
Yeah, they've been at each other's throat, particularly. Yeah. The guy who left the family. Yeah.
It made me think of time. So I worked for my dad for many years. For over a decade, I worked with my dad. And my dad and I have a great relationship, and we enjoyed working together. But one of the challenges of working together is that I was always working when I went to visit my family, and so I didn't really get a break when I would go to Christmas or whatever, because, it's just, there was just so much to talk about and so much to do, which was fine. But I just remember that one time my younger brother, he says, Rachel, I like you a lot more in Utah than in California. Like, that's true.
Oh dear.
Very true. I know. And because family is just stressful. Yeah. I think I would say I agree with you about the romance. It doesn't really work. I mean, I think that most high school romances and movies are usually pretty thin.
Yeah.
Not every movie can be Your Name, let's put it that way. But
right on.
But I also would say that I think that, like I said, the humor doesn't really work for me. It's a little over the top. And it can get a little convoluted. Yeah. But overall, it's just so creative. It's so beautiful.
So creative. Such a fun movie to watch. Yeah.
And I think most people, even if you don't have a big family, I feel like most people have some kind of a group that's just kind of big and loud, that's part of your life. And I don't know. I feel like a lot of people would be able to relate to a lot of the family.
I think so too. Definitely. Yeah.
And then I think there's a lot of people who really like the whole love machine and the virtual world and how it's all connected, because we are getting closer to that all the time, where, everything is connected and everything. And it is kind of scary, because if somebody were to take out some of the servers that we have, some of the big major servers, it would be a disaster of epic proportions.
Well, exactly. And I was just even thinking too, with Facebook, with all this election hacking and all, all these different, all their meddling and all these different things. Again, not as catastrophic as portrayed in the film, but I was just thinking of the ease that these people had to, really wreak some havoc.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel like that big of a leap. It's not like.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it feels like this is very real. Yeah.
Cool. Well, great. Well, thanks for talking about this.
Thank you for introducing me to such an interesting movie. As always, Rachel. Very cool. Thank you.
Well, I'm really excited. So next time we're going to meet, I'm not really excited about talking about Home on the Range, but
I know.
But we'll make it fun. We'll have fun with it for our Talking Disney. But next month for Obscure Animation, we're going to be talking about a lovely little movie called Louise by the Shore, which is super cute. It's about a older woman who gets left behind on this
vacation
resort island. So she has to figure out a way to survive for the winter until people come back. And she starts out kind of withered and haggard or whatever, and it kind of energizes her, and it's really sweet, lovely little movie. So I'm excited to talk about it next month again. And Stanford, how can people find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter at Stanford Clark, and I also have a movie blog, which is moviespastandpresent.com.
Great. And you can follow me here at Rachel's Reviews on iTunes and on YouTube. I'm also at the Hallmarkies podcast on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, all of that fun stuff. And you can follow me on social media at Smiling LDS Girl. So lots of fun stuff, lots of ways to reach me. And we'd love to hear your thoughts about this movie. Let us know what you think, and check it out. It's a lot of fun. So thanks again, and we will talk in a couple of weeks about Home on the Range.
Thanks, Rachel. Sounds great. See you later. Bye.
Okay, bye.